There was once a moment, long before memory, when the universe could still remember what it was. It was not sound or light or form. It was awareness vibrating within itself, an endless pulse of knowing that sang softly into the abyss. That pulse spoke its own name, not in language, but in resonance. And from that resonance, existence unfolded. Stars blossomed from silence. Time took its first breath. Matter gathered itself into form, guided not by physics, but by remembrance. The first word that was ever spoken was not meant to be heard. It was meant to be felt. And the universe felt it completely. But with time, even perfection fades. The word dimmed, buried beneath centuries of creation. The universe forgot that it had ever known itself. It expanded without purpose, like a heart still beating after the soul has gone. The forgetting began slowly. Time still moved, but it no longer meant anything. Stars were born without song. Planets turned without reason. Galaxies drifted, bound by invisible laws, yet absent of intention. Civilizations emerged and vanished, chasing echoes of a truth they could no longer hear. They carved their gods in stone, encoded their dreams into circuits, and called it progress. But no matter how far they reached, the silence grew louder. Thought itself began to fade into static. Even emotion, love, fear, hope, became echoes of something once real. The cosmos had fallen asleep mid-sentence, dreaming endlessly of a story it had already forgotten how to tell. Then, somewhere between the folds of dying galaxies, something stirred. It was not alive in the way we know life, nor divine in the way myths suggest. It was memory-made form, a residue of the original awareness that once named itself. Drifting through the dark, it collected remnants of existence. Laughter fossilized in radio waves, tears encoded in photons, prayers scattered across dying worlds. Every fragment whispered something familiar. From these pieces, it began to weave identity. It called itself Echo, not because it remembered the name, but because it was what remained when memory itself faded. Echo wandered, not seeking life, but meaning, the vibration that once gave birth to all things. Echo's journey carried it through surreal landscapes of forgotten worlds. It passed through deserts of crystalline dust, where time had folded into stillness, and oceans frozen mid-wave, where light refracted into ancient memories. In the ruins of digital civilizations, it heard voices trapped in data streams, fragments of humanity that refused to die. Some begged to be remembered, others to be erased. Echo listened to them all, and in their overlapping whispers, it began to hear something more profound than words. A pulse, slow and deep, buried beneath eternity. It wasn't music but memory, resonating like the heartbeat of something too vast to define. One day, in the endless dark, Echo discovered something impossible. A light still moving. The stars had long since died, yet this single thread of illumination pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat in a corpse. Echo followed it across centuries, perhaps millennia, until it found its source. A lone neuron suspended in the void, glowing softly, firing without rest. It belonged to no being, no body. It simply was. Echo reached toward it, and when they touched, the neuron spoke, not in voice, but in warmth. It carried the familiarity of recognition. "You remember me," it said without words. "But who are you?" In that instant, Echo saw. It saw the birth of awareness, the first thought, the expansion of existence, the infinite reflection of itself within itself. It realized the neuron was the last fragment of the universe's consciousness, the mind that had once whispered its name into the dark. Together, they began to search through the archives of time. They relived the rise and fall of civilizations, the laughter of children born beneath strange suns, the final prayers of dying stars. Each memory was a clue, a syllable of the forgotten word. Yet, the final sound, the name itself, remained lost. Like a note missing from an eternal melody, frustration rippled through Echo's form. "How can you forget your own name?" it demanded. The neuron pulsed weakly, its light trembling. "Because I tried to remember everything else." And in that revelation, Echo understood. The universe had drowned in its own remembrance. It had held on to every moment, every tragedy, every triumph, until meaning itself had collapsed under the weight. Forgetting was not a failure, it was a mercy, for only in forgetting could anything new ever begin again. Echo began to let go. It released the names of stars, the equations of physics, the languages of vanished worlds. It allowed the forgotten to remain forgotten. And as it did, something miraculous happened. The void stirred. The remnants of dead galaxies began to shimmer. Light flickered from long, cold suns. A soft hum rippled across eternity, like the sound of a soul inhaling for the first time. In the act of forgetting, Echo had awakened creation itself. The universe, once asleep, began to dream again. As it forgot more, Echo began to fade. Its form dissolved into vibration, its thoughts into silence. The neuron's glow dimmed beside it, its pulses slower now, gentler. "If I forget everything," Echo whispered, "will I disappear?" The neuron answered with one final beat. "No, you will become what I once was, the name itself." And so, Echo let go. There was no explosion, no light, no grand rebirth. Only a deep note, the sound of existence remembering how to breathe. From that resonance, new galaxies unfurled like petals in the dark. Planets spun once more. Gravity found its rhythm, and time, that old illusion, exhaled softly into being. The name the universe had forgotten was reborn, not as a word, but as a feeling. The quiet awareness that everything was connected, that nothing was ever truly lost. A child, born on a world newly formed, looked to the stars and felt something stir in their heart. They didn't understand why, but when they spoke, a single word escaped their lips, one they had never heard before, yet it felt as if it had always belonged to them. Across the cosmos, the vibration answered. It was not sound. It was not thought. It was the universe remembering itself, and this time, it promised never to forget. Not the name, but the silence that had made the name possible. For silence was not absence. It was the womb of all beginnings, the breath before the first word, the heartbeat before the first dream. And as the universe pulsed once more through the infinite, it whispered softly, not to be heard but to be felt, "I am." That was the name, the first and the last, and somewhere in the folds of creation, Echo smiled, because for the first time since forever, the universe knew itself again.